Okay, so it's fair to say over the past few years, whenever I go to the cinema, it's normally for like the big summer blockbusters, Marvel, DC, or Pixar, or one of the likes. But over the years, there have been a couple of films that I personally wouldn't have gone to see under my own steam. But when other people have wanted to see them, I've usually come along and I found I fairly like them, especially kind of the new classic sci-fi films like The Martian, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Although that one's a bit marmite. That will be up to your taste. Arrival or Everything Everywhere All at Once. And recently, I somebody offered me a chance to go to the cinema to see a new sci-fi film that was coming out. I thought, oh, why not? It sounds interesting. And that is 2026's Project Hail Mary. It's based on a novel from 2021 written by Andy Weir, the same guy who did The Martian, and it's directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Now, when I saw their names in the director's chair for this particular film, I honestly thought this might have a chance to be actually something really good, because I do know of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Like, they have done some big kind of franchise films, such as the Jump Street films, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Lego movie, and the Spider-Verse films. And as of the current moment I'm recording this, Project Hail Mary is now actually the second highest grossing film of 2026, just behind Pegasus 3. As I said, it is based on a novel by Andy Weir, which I have not read. So, as opposed to a family member who I went to see this film with who had read the book and actually thought it was a good book, I was going into this film completely blind. I'm just a blind film goer here. The film stars actor Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, a somewhat depressed middle school science teacher who gets kind of wrapped up in a series of bizarre events. Because he's approached by a scientist, an investor named Eva Stratz, played by Sandra Hüller. As it turns out, they've known for a while that there is an infrared line going from the Sun to the planet Venus, which they've dubbed the Petrova line. And what they find is that this Petrova line going to Venus, it also seems to have developed a brand of bacteria which seems to be draining the Sun of its energy, or at least causing it to. And basically what this means is that within the next 30 years, the Sun will lose a large portion of its energy, will become cooler, and thus this means that planet Earth and humanity will face some very dodgy consequences in the next 30 years. So they want to send up a team of basically astronauts, scientists, and people to basically find out what the problem is, because this is spreading to other stars. They want to go to a star that they have seen doesn't have this problem and figure out how they can ultimately fix the problem. However, throughout a series of unfortunate events, Ryland Grace finds himself alone on the spaceship after his two fellow astronauts are killed. And it's called Project Hail Mary because this is deemed to be a one-way trip. Like, they only have enough fuel, or as they call it, astrophage, which is the same stuff that's seemingly cooling the Sun. They only have enough for a one-way trip. They'll send drones back with any data they discover, but anyone who goes out there to space is pretty much due to die. To which we see throughout the film in flashbacks how exactly Grace came to be in this situation. To which, as I said, we meet his kind of commanding officer, Eva Stratz, but then also during his expedition, he also meets another alien whom he dubs Rocky, voiced by James Ortiz. Rocky, to me, seems to have the appearance, he's made of rock entirely, which is why he gets the nickname Rocky, but then to me he looks like a cross between a rock, a roast chicken, and a crab. And it's shown fairly on that he can't actually speak English. He mainly communicates kind of with his movements. However, Grace is able to put together a program that will allow them to communicate with each other, and eventually the two start to form a strong friendship. This is a weird film, but at the same time, it does it very, very well. Oh, sorry. As someone who was just going into this film just as a casual moviegoer who didn't actually know the story of this, I actually found this really interesting. And the fact they managed to make me care about a relationship between Ryan Gosling and a crab rock alien, they made it believable. There were certain points in the film when I thought that Rocky was going to die, or that things weren't going to work out well for them, but they managed to make it work. Rocky is eventually revealed to be part of a race known as Iridians. They also have the same problem with the astrophage, and they're going out there to see what's going on, but Rocky is now the only member of his team to survive. And aside from the kind of comedy and the relationship between the two, to which also it's mentioned that they can't actually breathe the same air or can't be in the same room properly together because Rocky, while we're based on kind of nitrogen and oxygen, Rocky's atmosphere largely consists of xenon, to which they managed to find some pretty creative ways of having Rocky move around the cabin, and some of the visuals are downright spectacular. Like when the two of them are going to a star, the Tau Cetus star, or Tau Cetus E, the planet near it, in order to collect astrophage or the like, it's spectacular. I mean, I personally have never been to the Northern Lights. I've never kind of properly seen the Aurora Borealis, but I got some strong kind of visuals with that. I mean, just the red and green kind of planet, and ultimately how they did the skies of that, and even just having part of the atmosphere on fire. It was spectacular to behold. So, all in all, this is a film that I think people should see. It is, I think, going to be another one of the great future sci-fi films. Okay, it's not the likes of Empire Strikes Back, but it's one people definitely should watch. If you haven't read the book, I'd strongly suggest reading the book. I mean, as I said, I haven't read it, but I was going into this completely blind. But I got something that was beautiful, it was funny in places, it was emotional, it was heartfelt, and it does lead to an ending that feels very, very believable. Which the person I went to see it with said it's a little different in the books. Ultimately, when you see them having this kind of goodbye scene together and going their separate ways, Grace is due to go back to Earth, Rocky is due to go back to his home planet, but then when Grace figures out something they hadn't figured out with the astrophage that they collected, that it can ultimately eat through the containers, seeing him go back, he makes it work. And I'm repeating myself here, but I really think this is a great film to be able to watch. It'll make you care about the relationship between a human being and a rock. A rock that looks like a combination of a rock, a roast chicken, and a crab. But it does so very, very well. So, surprisingly, I'm giving my thumbs up to the film Project Hail Mary. And if you want to step out of the kind of big blockbuster films, try this. This is weird, but it works. That's my quick little review of Project Hail Mary. Definitely give it a shot. Anyway, till next time, see ya.